The 2025 season is over. The Seattle Seahawks are champions, and now one thing is on the mind of every football fan in America.
The Texans!
Okay, I might be the only person in the world thinking about the Texans right now, but I have been for months, ever since I saw this video.
CJ's my guy, for one. I feel like I'm standing behind him right or wrong, whether he had a good game or bad game. That's for other people to speculate. I mean, there were a lot of people who didn't have a great game on the field because it's a whole team effort. I mean, the defense was on the field a number of times. We gave up 21 points. So if you want to point fingers, you point fingers at me. I gave up a catch. I got targeted 7 times with no takeaways. Takeaway could have changed the game.
Setting aside just for a second that one catch on 7 targets for 18 yards is a very good game, we can excuse Kamari Lassiter for trying to cut his quarterback some slack, because so far CJ Stroud has been through a whirlwind of an offseason. In the week after the Patriots loss, he responded directly to criticisms from Hall of Famer Troy Aikman taking accountability for his play, was publicly thrown under the bus by Texans owner Cal McNair after presenting the team and ownership with a handwritten apology, and had to receive a full-throated endorsement from Texans legend J.J. Watt. Now that would be a hell of a week for anybody, except, and this is true, none of it actually happened. That's right, the rhetoric around CJ Stroud has gotten so absurd that supporters with botted Facebook accounts are generating fake headlines in order to garner sympathy. In fact, this fake quote has been used to talk about everybody from Josh Allen to Arch Manning to Joey Aguilar and even Deebo Samuel. Former NFL players are posting podcasts titled This, and also somehow podcasts titled This, only several hours later, and second-year cornerbacks are practically publicly apologizing for a near-perfect game. So given everything that's going on, let's take a deep dive into the conversation around the Houston Texans and their quarterback situation. Now, I won't spend too much time pontificating on the playoff run right now. We all know it was bad. He recorded the second most quarterback turnovers ever in a playoff run with 7, and became the only quarterback in NFL history to have 5 fumbles and 5 interceptions in a single postseason. And he set both those marks in only 6 quarters of football. This was not just a bad postseason. It was, by some metrics, the worst playoff run by a quarterback in the history of the NFL. What we're going to look at today is how this performance and CJ Stroud's career to date should contribute to the conversations the Texans have to have and the decisions that they have to make. And while it's easy to get blinded by the surge in negative perception that CJ Stroud has had recently, it is important to remember that there are still a lot of people, including presumably many in the Texans organization, that still believe in him as the franchise guy in Houston. And there's 3 common arguments for why. So today I think it's valuable to look at each one, whether they hold up to scrutiny, and where the Texans can go from here. Arguably the most common defense is... Now, this is a sentiment you'll see echoed in every corner of the internet amongst Texans fans, and I will admit it would be hard to do your job with unblocked players constantly trying to hit you. I tried.
2025, the Houston Texans.
And at this point, I want to pause for a second to address any CJ Stroud fans. See, I'm going to say some things over the course of this video that you might not love to hear, so I want to make a deal with you. I promise that whenever my takes get a little too annoying, I will play back that clip of me getting absolutely leveled, in hopes that it brings you at least a little satisfaction. And with that in mind, I'll keep it ready, because my first take is, the offensive line's not an excuse. I know, but hear me out. Okay, I am not saying this offensive line was good. It wasn't. It was deeply, deeply flawed. But it also had some bright spots. Left tackle Ariante Ursery had a good rookie year. He looked promising. And guard Ed Ingram was going to have plenty of suitors had the Texans let him go in free agency, because he also had a solid season. So what do the numbers look like? Well, I'm sure you're familiar with the 30th in pass block win rate stat that's been going around. That is true. It's about 56%, which was not good. And we will come back to that number in a minute because it is important, I promise. But these are a little more interesting to me. Sacks are low, even projecting for the 3 games he missed. But sacks can at least partially be a quarterback stat. If you're under pressure constantly and escaping sacks, that's a credit to the quarterback. So let's look at his pressure rate. It's not high. All of this is according to Next Gen Stats, which lists the average pressures per game at 12.6. Well, Stroud faced an average of 11 pressures per game, a figure which, after running the numbers, I was able to confirm is, in fact, less than 12.6. So maybe he's forced to throw the ball very quickly to avoid inevitable pressure like Aaron Rodgers did this year. Oh, league average time to throw. Okay, so he wasn't sacked a lot, he wasn't pressured a lot, and he wasn't throwing the ball quickly. Again, there were problems in pass protection, don't get me wrong, but these are far from insurmountable circumstances. They're all around league average. But I'm always told that the important thing with CJ Stroud is that when he is not running for his life, he looks like the best of the best. So I looked at those numbers. These are all of his dropbacks where he faced no pressure at all. And they are elite. Passer rating is close to bottom third. Completion percentage is bottom third. CPOE, for you analytics folks, is also bottom third. EPA per dropback and yards per attempt are both 16th. That is the definition of average. The only thing he's above average in is taking a long time to throw. So I guess by elite, what they mean is bottom third-ish quarterback play in the NFL. But I'm going to take it a step further because I don't think he's been good, even relative to other quarterbacks with bad offensive lines. These are just some of the many quarterbacks that faced pressure at a higher rate than CJ Stroud this year, according to next-gen stats and NFL databases. Drake May, MVP runner-up, far better passer rating, better stats, better everything. Justin Herbert, top 5 MVP finish, better passer rating, better stats, better everything. Jared Goff, 1,500 more yards, 15 more touchdowns, better passer rating. Trevor Lawrence, MVP finalist. Brock Purdy played 5 fewer games, still threw 1 more touchdown and a better passer rating. Lamar Jackson played 1 less game and had a bad season. He still had more touchdowns, less picks, and a better passer rating. Jacoby Brissett, really? Played 1 less game but had more yards, more touchdowns, and a better passer rating. Jordan Love, who played 1 more game but had more yards, more touchdowns, less picks, and a higher passer rating. All of these players faced more consistent pressure than CJ Stroud this season. And all of these players significantly outplayed CJ Stroud this season. And for those of you who liked the 30th in pass block win rate stat, this is where we come back to it. Because who were the only 2 teams below the Texans in pass block win rate? Jared Goff's Lions were 31st. And Justin Herbert's Chargers were 32nd. Both quarterbacks who outplayed CJ Stroud. But why stop it this year? Even last year, Sam Darnold had a higher pressure rate, better across the board. Actually, out of the 10 most sacked quarterbacks last year, CJ Stroud had the 2nd worst passer rating. And he was second only to Tennessee resident and alleged quarterback Will Levis. Again, Houston's offensive line needed plenty of work. It was clearly the worst unit on the roster, but it is not the excuse for CJ Stroud's struggles that the team's fan base seems to make it out to be. Because the fact is, the difference between the player at the top of your screen and the players at the bottom of your screen, it's not offensive line play. It's that the players at the bottom of your screen have been better than him. But he has as many playoff wins as almost any of them. It's common knowledge by now that the Texans have never been past the divisional round. So what has CJ Stroud contributed to that? We've been over this year, 4 interceptions to 1 touchdown, 16 points, and one of the worst playoff games in recent memory. Okay, but it's a little disingenuous to just constantly bring up this year when he's had 2 stronger playoff runs in his career already. Like last year, when he marched into Arrowhead Stadium and his Texans put up 14 points. Okay, but that's not fair either, because that's ignoring his best season yet, his sensational rookie year, when he went into M&T Bank Stadium and braved the weather and the fans, and he looked Lamar Jackson in the eyes and led his offense to 10 points. Are you? It's true. In points scored, this year's historically bad outing was genuinely the best offensive performance by a CJ Stroud team in the divisional round. That's not good. Okay, so he's been terrible in the divisional round. He's got 4 interceptions and 1 touchdown over the course of 3 games, and he also has more games with no touchdowns than he has games with any touchdowns. But what about the wild card round? Because that's where he's 3-0, and that's where you start hearing arguments like this one from Aqib Khalid.
Like this CJ 3rd year, and he 3-3 in the playoffs. Yeah. Like a lot of quarterbacks can't say that. You know what I'm saying? He get to the playoffs. The year y'all talking about he balled, he did all this. He was 1-1. Yeah. The next year he was 1-1. Mm-hmm. This year he was 1-1. All right. He had a rough ass 2 games with a whole lot of turnovers. Defense kind of stood up for him.
A rough
but
season.
That's football. All right, a rough season. Yeah.
Played good all season.
I mean, he ain't looked good all season, but they won 11 straight games.
They did.
And they won a playoff game. Yeah. So he had to do something. You know what I'm saying? He did something. If they won 11, 12 straight games and we won the playoff game, he don't get no credit for none of that. That's all defense, right? Yeah. They won the game 0.5 to 0.
Yeah, all that's true. So let's talk about those wildcard games. Because he was sensational in 2023, right? 3 touchdowns, no turnovers, 157 passer rating. He was awesome. No one can take that from him, and I wouldn't even try. Unfortunately, that's where it ends. See, that's still his only wildcard game where he has more touchdowns than turnovers. In fact, it's still his only playoff game in his career where he has more touchdowns than turnovers. So how do they keep winning these games? Well, here's a fun fact, and just tell me if you can spot my point. The Texans' defense and special teams, excluding field goals, have outproduced C.J. Stroud in points during 4 of his 6 playoff games. He's actually never outproduced them by more than 1 score in his entire playoff career. Did you see it? Did you see my point? This defense has been incredible. I know they just reached mainstream acclaim in 2025, but this unit has been elite ever since DeMeco Ryans and Matt Burke took over. They've just been getting better and better, and nowhere is that more evident than in the wild card round of the playoffs. So I have 3 increasingly wild stats about this defense that I want to share with you, so we're going to start at mild and go up from there. Number 1. In their 3 playoff wins, the Texans' defense has allowed 10.6 points per game. For reference on just how dominant that is, the 2015 no-fly zone Broncos allowed 14.7 points per game in their 3 wins, and the 2013 Legion of Boom allowed 13.3 points per game. Those are 2 of the best defenses and defensive playoff runs this century. Number 2, the Texans are 3-0 in their wildcard games since 2023. If we remove all offensive production from those games, they go from losing 0 games to losing 1 game, and they lose it by a field goal. Over the course of their wildcard wins, the Texans have needed exactly 5 offensive points to go undefeated, which brings us to number 3. And for the craziest stat, this one's relatively simple. The Texans' defense has outscored their opponents in the wildcard round. They have allowed 32 points, but they have scored 36 defensive points. So this is why when people say, I forget, how is it phrased?
And we won the playoff game. He don't get no credit for none of that. That's all defense, right?
Yes, I am saying that. Unequivocally, I'm saying that. Without a second of hesitation, I am saying that. Because it's true. We have got to stop pretending that the quarterback is the only player on the team just because they're usually the most important player on the team. Okay, there are 21 other guys on that starting roster, not even including special teams, and sometimes they're the reason you win. And that's okay. Nobody has any issue blaming another position for a loss, but for a win, well, that goes straight to the quarterback. Why? Nobody credits the tight end for a win he didn't contribute to. Nobody credits the running back for rushing for 62 yards and no touchdowns. And yet all I've been hearing for the last several months is, well, C.J. Stroud has 3 playoff wins. Okay. Well, this is what he's done in those playoffs. More turnovers than touchdowns, failed to outscore his own defense, below average completion percentage, below average passer rating, and as a bonus, one of the worst multiple game playoff runs in the history of the sport. Now, on the other side, they average a touchdown, almost 2 turnovers, and 4 sacks per game, allowing an average passer rating of 82.4. Hey, did you know that out of 24 playoff quarters played, the Texans' defense has allowed more than 7 points in only 3 of them? This defense has been incredible. They have dragged stagnant offense after stagnant offense after stagnant offense about as far as they can go. And it's about time they get some credit, and it's about time they get some help. But you need to remember who you were without him. I mean, that's just a disingenuous statement, because I do remember. I remember they were a team without DeMeco Ryans. They were a team without Matt Burke. They were a team without Will Anderson Jr. They were a team without Dalton Schultz, who became a key producer on offense. They were a team without Derek Stingley, who missed half his rookie season due to injury. And they were a team with a young, inexperienced rookie Jalen Petrie. To pretend that the only difference between the 2022 Houston Texans and the 2023 Houston Texans was C.J. Stroud is a level of disingenuous that is damn near immoral. Okay, the entire team and culture was overturned in 2023, and that's not even accounting for players added after that. Players like Kamari Laster, Caleb Bullock, Azeez Al-Shaair, Daniil Hunter. And since then, every player that I've mentioned has improved year after year, most of them developing into bona fide superstars. Every player except for C.J. Stroud.
Was it the number of times you saw the Patriots defense make a play that's Super Bowl quality that they can repeat against Denver, if not beyond, or the number of times you said about C.J. Stroud, what is he doing? What was he seeing? What was the larger number of watching?
I mean, definitely C.J. Stroud.
And these struggles shouldn't come as a total surprise. There were pre-draft concerns like the S2 cognition test that alluded to these decision-making issues being a possibility. Now, I'm not saying Texans fans should jump to conclusions, but I am saying they should absolutely stop pretending that questioning their quarterback is some kind of a cardinal sin. And I want to be very clear here. There is a difference between questioning and hate. And no one should hate C.J. Stroud, the man. There's no reason to. He seems like a good guy, and frankly, none of us know him. But as a professional with tens of millions of dollars on the line, the things we're talking about here matter. They do. And Super Bowl windows close fast. So for those of you still saying he just doesn't have enough help, Guess what you can't afford once you pay a quarterback superstar money? That's why they're superstars. It's because we believe they are good enough to bring a good but imperfect roster to the promised land. And not even Stroud's biggest supporters seem to think he's that, because all I hear now is he doesn't have enough help. Well, just to recap, this is what he had this year. Arguably the best defense in football, one of the best coaching staffs in football, one of the best special teams units in football, a top 10 wide receiver one, depth at the receiver position, and a very reliable tight end. If all of that's not enough, the answer might be that CJ Stroud isn't good enough to carry a franchise, and he's not cheap enough to build one around. And that's a tough spot, man. But this is why, even though I know the market will rise, I urge caution when we're talking about an extension. Because if you don't think he has enough help now, wait until he takes up 1/5 of the salary cap. As for what the Texans can do from here, they've pretty much done it. I mean, I think they've had a really good offseason. They addressed a lot of the holes on the roster. The offense looks stacked. The defense looks stacked. The special team still looks really good. I think the only massive mistake they could make is signing CJ Stroud to a big extension. I think they'll take his 5th-year option, and I think they'll make this a prove-it year, which would be the right call. And I hope he does. I hope he proves it. I'm rooting against myself on this one. I really am. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that this video ages horribly and that I get made fun of for it for years. I will be the child in the basement of Omaha for the Houston Texans. I will. Because between you and me, I am a fan. I hope I'm wrong about CJ Stroud. I just don't think I am.